Good evening, everybody. And this is a study session of the Mahomet-Seymour Board of Education. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is 7:03 p.m. on Monday, February 1st. At this time, I'd like to remind anyone attending in person to please sign in and silence their cell phones. I'd also like to remind our visitors that in order to facilitate an effective meeting, we ask those that would like to make comments to the board to read the visitor guidelines found outside the door, complete the public participation form, and get those to Dawn. And I do believe we have a couple of those for this evening. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Giles?
Here.
Keith?
Here.
Hendricks?
Here.
Schultz?
Here.
Larson? Here. Hennessy?
Here.
McComb?
Here, and we will stand for the national anthem, or for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Sing it.
National anthem, run the band for that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. You may be seated. Board members, you've had an opportunity to review the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for tonight? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion on the agenda.
Max, can we add a discussion item on the process we're going to use to conduct our evaluation tonight?
We've been told that we can do that once we get in closed session.
I don't think that's a closed session topic. I'm talking about the process, not the actual evaluation itself.
Dr. Hall, did you get clarity on that?
I've heard from one attorney that says that is a topic for closed session discussion.
Okay. We've got attorneys telling us we can discuss it in closed session. Would you like to discuss it in open session?
I'm concerned about that because the Attorney General has actually weighed in last summer on this topic about conducting, talking about the process of an evaluation. And the Attorney General said the discussion was not authorized because it concerned the process for evaluating the principal rather than her performance. Accordingly, this office concludes that the council violated Section 2A of OMA by improperly closing that discussion to the public. There's a significant public interest in a public body's discussion of the process for evaluating a high-ranking school administrator, such as a principal, regardless of whether the discussions result in a change in policy. And they also said discussing how the evaluation would be conducted does not constitute an evaluation of how the principal actually performed her job. Section 2C1 does not authorize a discussion of the evaluation process in general. So we got an email from ASB about that this past summer, saying pretty much that we can't do that. So that's what gives me pause to discuss it in closed session, given this resolution.
We each have attorneys that have told us we can. We will go ahead and defer, and if you'd like to talk about that in open session before we go to close, I would suggest we do that right after public comment before we go to closed session.
Thank you.
So,
Thanks, Max.
yes.
I was saying thanks, Max.
Oh, okay. So we will add that discussion onto the agenda if that's okay with everybody. Is there a motion to approve the agenda with that change?
So, I'll second. Hennessy second.
Who's the first?
And
I think it was. Okay, anything else?
We need to vote on that.
We need to vote on that.
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
All right. Hennessy?
Yes.
Schultz?
Yes.
Keith?
yes,
Giles?
No.
Hendricks?
No.
Larson?
No.
McComb?
No. Okay, so that failed. Any other motions? Just, we default back to the motion, the original motion that was to approve the agenda. Can we vote on that, please?
Larson,
Yes.
Hendricks,
Yes.
Giles,
Yes.
Hennessy,
No.
Keith,
Yes.
Schultz,
Although I'm very disappointed that my request made last week was not accommodated, and we apparently are intending to violate the Open Meetings Act, but yes.
McComb.
Yes. Okay, are there any more public participation forums? Thank you. All right, we've got two folks tonight that would like to address the board. First up is Katie McHugh. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
You can use the podium if you'd like,
Okay, thanks.
and you've got up to 5 minutes if you need it. If you get close, we'll give you a 30-second warning.
Well, good evening. I'm here this evening to discuss the Illinois State Board of Education notice of proposed amendments. I was only made aware of this a couple of days ago, so I'm kind of getting up to speed on it, but I've read about the proposed amendments from last week. They were actually put together by the State Board back in November, but they are up for a vote by the Joint Committee of the Administrative Rules, which is, they're supposed to go on February 16th, which is in 2 weeks. The Joint Committee on Administrative Rules, or JARC, is an administrative body in Springfield, which is made up of 12 representatives, 6 from each political party. They're appointed. These representatives get to approve or disapprove the amendments already passed by the State Board of Education. This amendment is called the Culturally Responsive Teaching and Leading Standards for all Illinois educators. It includes the college level, colleges and universities. It has raised enough concern that just today, Dr. Carmen, I don't know how to, Ayala, she's the state superintendent of the Board of Education. She walked back the original document today, changing the implementation date from October 2021 to October 2025, and altering its application from all teachers statewide to teacher preparation programs, not the K-12 school curricula that it was originally written for. The language is also altered in the proposal to eliminate some politically charged phrases. Today's press release states, quote, ISBE updated the draft standards in response to public comment to provide further clarity on the intended goal and remove language perceived as political, end quote. So why did she walk it back, and what are people so concerned about? Why am I concerned in speaking to you tonight? This proposal was originally for all licensed and future educators in the state of Illinois. I am a licensed educator in the state of Illinois, although I am currently not employed other than subbing. It is now focusing on the next generation of teachers and the institutions which will train them. It is standards that are highly political in nature. They reflect a progressive agenda and will exclude highly qualified prospective teachers because of the biases incorporated into the proposed amendment. I do not have the time to read all this to you tonight, and I think it is better for you to form your own opinion by reading it yourself, but I really want to bring it to your attention to read it. I ask that you read it and consider how this will impact every teacher in every subject at every grade level in our state. Do we as a community want our teachers, present and future, to be focused on social issues or subject matter? Do we want them to teach community activism or teach students how to learn and discern truth? Do our teachers really have the time and bandwidth to take on these standards in addition to the many standards they are already required to meet? It is a long document and there's a lot in there. And the fact that it was walked back today does not change what they are trying to accomplish. And so, again, I don't want to tell you how to think about it, but I really encourage you as our board to look at this. Do we want to deny teachers in the future licenses because they have traditional views and about fundamental questions? So I want to ask you to join me in calling and writing the members of the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules and ask them to vote against the approval of these amendments. I want you to, as part of your job, is to advocate on behalf of our students and our community, to advocate against these proposals. We already have lots and lots of teacher standards that are excellent, that cover the things that are proposed in a way that is not divisive and politically charged. I ask that you call ISBE or collectively as one voice, as our board, as our superintendent, stand up and oppose these things on behalf of our teachers and our community. I assume you can make those contacts, but if you need me to provide you with contacts, it's really easy to find State Board of Education. I made a call today. You can also call the Joint Committee. It's easily accessible. So please consider it. Please read those documents. I'm thrilled that it was walked back, but I think that that's not good enough. I really think that we as a district need to say we don't want this anywhere near our future teachers or our current teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
Katie, thank you for being here, sharing that with us. Next up, Mike Larson.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight. I have watched with dismay the past several months the continued inability of our Board of Education to operate effectively. To address this ineffectiveness, I initially thought it would be helpful if I developed and presented an end-of-the-year evaluation of the board. As I wrote that evaluation, I realized that my words and comments would do nothing more than add to the ineffectiveness of the board, as I was mainly critiquing everything that I observed and felt was wrong. In hopes of modeling a new path forward, I am going to attempt a different approach. To start, I would like to start by celebrating a few of the victories our board and district has accomplished over the past few years. First off, the board and district developed and implemented a policy that allows homeschooled students to participate in extracurricular activities. Our commitment and investment in technology such as Chromebooks, Wi-Fi, and mobile hotspots have provided all of our students with opportunities to continue to learn and succeed academically amidst the challenges of the pandemic. And most importantly, we have adopted and executed a plan for both remote and in-person learning, with a diligent and concerted effort by all involved to ensure the safety of our teachers and students. What I would like to ask and encourage is that all of the board members carefully consider their role on the Board of Education. From my perspective, the role of any board is not to actually run the business that they govern, but to oversee the operations. A board should not delve into the daily activities of the business, but instead should primarily operate at the 30,000-foot level. A board's role is to review and approve a budget and then monitor to ensure expenditures are made in line with what was budgeted. A board should not be involved in employee evaluations and should not put itself in a position where it might be assumed that they are. A board has one primary employee that it works with and supervises. And for a school district, that is the superintendent. If a board has questions or concerns about anything that they are responsible for overseeing, they have a responsibility to reach out to the one employee they supervise first and to ask questions and provide that person an opportunity to respond. Most importantly, a board has a responsibility to each other and the employee that they supervise to work to develop working relationships. You can't bring personal agendas and partisan politics to the table. You must work toward the common good for those that you serve, and that starts by each member of the board being willing to set aside their personal opinion when necessary. It requires a commitment to serve in humility for the common goal of supporting our district, and most importantly, the kids we have all been entrusted to educate. I would challenge each member of the board to ask yourselves, how much time have I spent trying to develop a working relationship with my fellow board members? I would challenge each of you to ask yourself, how much effort have I put into trying to develop a working relationship with Lindsay during your tenure on the board? Most importantly, I would ask each of you to consider if you have been willing in humility to set aside your personal perspective when it was necessary for the goal of reaching a consensus for the people you have been elected to serve. I will acknowledge that we are not a perfect district. We do not have a perfect superintendent, staff, or teachers. None of us are perfect. I will also acknowledge that in spite of these imperfections, we are arguably one of the best districts in the state. We all have either stayed in Mahomet or have moved to Mahomet for one primary reason: our schools. I would implore each of you to spend more time focusing on what you can do to continue the tradition of excellence as a member of the board, and less time picking at our imperfections. You have an opportunity to celebrate the successes and support those you have been elected to serve. We are not broken. We have a great superintendent, staff, and teachers that are working tirelessly to support our excellence. Let's all continue that tradition by asking what each of us can do to support these efforts. I would like to conclude by thanking our administration, staff, and teachers for continuing to serve in excellence. This past year has been a challenge, to say the least. We have not seen eye to eye on all the issues, and there have been and will continue to be differing opinions on what we should do and how we should do it. In spite of this, those of you involved in the daily business of running our district have clearly kept your focus on why all of us are here.
30 seconds, Mike.
And that is to serve the kids you have been entrusted to teach. Mahomet is an outstanding district, and it has and continues to succeed because you care first and foremost for the students. My wife and I thank you, my children thank you, and our community thanks you. I'd like to wrap up by saying to the members of the board, I do appreciate your service. I know this is a difficult and often thankless job, and I appreciate each and every one of you for being willing to serve in that capacity. And please know that all of you are in my prayers and will continue to be in my prayers for the success of our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Dawn, do we have any other requests? With that, a closed session is necessary tonight for the employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, specific individuals who serve as independent contractors in a park, recreational, or educational setting, or specific volunteers of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee, a specific individual who serves as an independent contractor in a park, recreational, or educational setting, or the volunteer of a public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. Is there a motion to go into closed session at this time for those reasons?
So moved.
A motion, is there a second?
Second, Larson.
Okay, discussion? Roll call vote, please.
What,
Hendricks.
Yes.
What's the question?
I'm sorry, was there a question?
what is your intention to do in this closed session?
Discussion is to look at the employment, compensation, discipline, performance of a civic district employee.
Next, I had asked earlier for the communication from the attorney about the process being closed session. Do we have that available? Is there a reason that we didn't get that as the board? I'm having a hard time finding it myself in the position to be able to go in and do my job in this closed session with no understanding of what the process is going to be, no opportunity to talk that through as a board. I don't have the documentation that I requested in order to make what I think would be evaluations based on facts and data. I'm not sure how we go into this closed session and do an evaluation when we haven't talked about the process and the data that I've requested in order to do this effectively has been denied to me.
I'm sorry, there's still questions about the process. I think that's been reviewed prior.
Is there a reason that you can't send the attorney's opinion to us?
Phone conversation.
In light of what Colleen read earlier, I have pause about us going in and talking about the process because it seems to me like the Attorney General actually did rule on this in earlier this
I
year.
don't need to talk about the process. I know exactly the process I want to follow. I'm not really.
The board is supposed to talk about the process together. I asked for some data points and I have not been given any of that data. I find it difficult to go in and be able to effectively conduct this evaluation without the data that I requested. If I go in at this point, it's just going to be on gut feel, and I don't believe that that is fair to Lindsay. I don't believe that that's the spirit of what we're supposed to be doing tonight. I have no way to give an objective set of feedback when I don't have access to the evaluation from last year as requested. I don't have any of the data points about how she's conducted her job that we're supposed to evaluate her on. I'm stuck here wanting to participate, but not knowing how that's going to happen given that I don't have any data or information to make decisions off of.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
I think we violated closed session protocol already by divulging a specific topic that's beyond the general topic that we approved. That's just wrong.
What's wrong? I didn't understand.
Discussion about what is believed to be the specific topic of discussion, which is not the way we set up approval of a closed session. The content, specific content of a closed session tonight is not for open discussion.
I think the content is supposed to be open for discussion. That's the point of the Open Meetings Act, is you have to say why you're going into closed session.
That's the language that was just stated.
For me, part of the issue is that there has been a process that the district has used for many, many, many years to evaluate the superintendent. And Max appears to have unilaterally decided to change that process from the process we've used for years and years. And that's why I sent an email last week to ask if we could have a discussion about the process and whether we were going to deviate from the established process that the district has. I feel as though one board member can't decide unilaterally how the process is going to go, especially when it deviates from past practice.
So I don't want to argue. I just want to make some points of clarification. Okay, this has been the practice since I have been on the board. I work in education. I work with a superintendent. I have access to another superintendent. They use the same tool, the numeric system and that. So by you asking for more things, I feel it's out of line, but I'm not here to represent what I feel. Practice has been this, and it's reflective of 2 other districts in the area. So that's why I don't have an issue with it being, he sent this out. I knew what was expected. It's the same evaluation form we used last year. So I felt like it was very clear. So I feel like you're not painting an accurate picture. That is my opinion.
Max sent an email saying it was deviation from the process. He did not collect the number.
We're using the same tool we have always used. We are collecting the information in a slightly different way because last year, frankly, was a train wreck. Okay.
Last year was a train wreck because they asked us to do something illegal.
We talked about the fact that we weren't going to discuss this, and now you're discussing it.
This is a motion on whether or not to go into closed session. I'm not sure I feel comfortable breaking the law. I'm sorry. That was the problem last year. The problem last year was that you asked us.
Kelly, what law are we breaking?
No one's breaking anything.
Last year, to send Lizzie's evaluation to someone at RE/MAX that we don't know. Lindsay has to run it to confidentiality of her.
We are way in the weeds here and way beyond what we. That's
I'd like to make a
illegal to
motion.
discuss. We're going to motion in a second to go into closed session. Is there any more discussion on going into closed session? Hearing none, can we have a vote?
Hendricks?
Yes.
I'm sorry, did you ask me? No, my answer is no.
Schultz,
No.
Larson,
Yes.
Giles,
Yes.
Keith,
No.
McComb.
Yes, I'd like to thank the public for their patience with us tonight. We're going to adjourn public. We will have no other public business tonight. We'll come back in 5 minutes on the link for closed session. Thank you so much.